still maintain you should have
adjust brightness. Oh no, that's even worse. Shit.
Oh, God, don't adjust anything on your end. Just paint your back wall tomorrow.
I just hit adjust brightness and it made it brighter. Like you'd think that the AI would be like, "Oh my god, no," and make it darker, but no, it went the opposite direction.
We're live, by the way.
Let's go.
Good start to the show.
Only an hour late. Thank you, Microsoft.
Yeah.
I take blame.
Surprise Skype to Teams migration that really threw a wrench in our gears.
Yeah. So it's
You know what really grinds my gears? Bill Gates.
Oh my gosh. So, as always, we are live, sort of. With me today is our very special and returning guest extraordinaire, Elliott Alvis. And if you're we have this other guy that we found, Greg is with us.
Yeah, it came out of a dumpster.
Yep.
Gentlemen, I have completely forgotten what we're talking about tonight, but how are you guys doing today?
I'm good. You can just call me Dumpster Chad at this point.
Yeah, I'm doing better now. That full hour of troubleshooting was
Oh my gosh.
real hoot.
I appreciate you guys being my tech support. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, glad to see you both, and glad to have you as always, Elliot. Thanks for joining.
Always fun to be here and fun to be bond with both of you. Rare treat.
Yeah, see,
Yes.
Greg is the intermediary of the Chad experience.
That's right. Yes, that's why you put me in the middle, so I can just give you guys some space.
He's a filter, if you will. Like, and somehow it's a cigarette with two ends.
It's just you're smoking a filter from a filter.
Yes.
There's no tobacco. It's just two filters meeting in the middle.
Hey, we have
Anyway.
the brothers over at Wheels and Whiskey and over on YouTube chat. Welcome. Before we progress, because my audio panel, because of all the troubleshooting, has like 9,000 things on it at the moment.
Good.
Can everyone hear Greg?
Hello.
Holla if
words.
you hear Greg.
I'm saying words. You're listening to these words.
Top tier
Please tell me
content
if
right
you
now.
can hear these words. That reminds me of that one thing where it was from Lord of the Rings, but it was the actors and it was actually in Lord of the Rings. It was Elijah Wood and the other guy is like, "Do you wear wigs? When will you wear wigs?"
Hey, Steve. Steve's saying hi in the Facebook chat. Just want to say, hey, Steve.
What's up?
Steve, since you're on Facebook, confirm that we can hear Greg
can
so
you
we
chat?
can
Or can you hear Greg?
that we
Yes.
can move on.
Can you hear me? 1, 2, 3. When will you wear wigs?
Red leather, yellow leather.
Unique New York. The Human Torch was denied a bank load. I memorized that whole intro to that movie. It's so good.
So good.
Lanolin? Like sheep's wool?
We have a Greg echo.
Okay, he said echo Greg because of his
Well,
bright ass white girl.
Yeah, he's in a sound echo chamber
Yeah, echo
Corvette things. At any rate, while it's always a pleasure to have Elliott on the show, and we don't really need an excuse to bring him on, this week seemed pertinent because, for reasons, Corvette and the Brits decided to, or GM decided to have the Brits design a Corvette, which I have thoughts
Which
on.
is such an odd statement, even. Like, this would make the original, like, Harley Earl would be rolling in his grave. He's like, that's the entire point, is we don't want the Brits to win.
Yes, but you threw that out the window when you went mid-engine, just saying.
True, I know. Hey, look, it's a different time, it's a different age. But this is great. It is a very pertinent, good excuse for
You
this
could.
sort of thing. And if everybody watched, you did a great short on this.
That's true. It was a very good one. You could also think about this as we won that, whole war about revolutions, and now we're making the UK do our bidding with our design.
We sure did, and I do like that way of thinking.
We did that in the
Yes.
60s with the
Practically
GT.
no longer around.
It's the freedom positive spin we need.
Yeah. I mean, look at what
See,
Chevy's
this
doing
is
right now, and look what Jaguar's doing right now. And that was, like I said, that was the OG Corvette competitor.
yeah,
And like I said, now we make them do our draftsmanship.
yeah,
We
exactly.
should have made them do it like draftsmen, honestly. I might have respected it more. But anyway,
Yeah.
we're looking at the images right now, and I mean, Chad, you've had some really good points about this. I mean, there's so much to say. Obviously, overall, I like it. This is the kind of cool futuristic concept I like seeing, regardless of brand. And I believe you said, Chad, this is more of a design exercise that they're going to have other people try. Correct?
Yeah, so basically what GM, I guess, is doing is they have now 3 design studios. One in Detroit, obviously. One in LA. Yeah, sure. And the newest one is in a very British sounding name town in, of course, England. And the first one to roll out was the British design. And I couldn't find too much on like the ethos or inspiration for design, but they were like, oh, we get to design a Corvette and it's mid-engine now. So they like split windows, right? Let's give them 2.
Yeah. I did see that in the front. I mean, obviously, you can't ignore it.
This this just looks like sort of a Corvette Valkyrie at this point. Like,
Kind of, yeah.
It feels like
Basically with,
Adrian
like,
knew
those-
he was involved. Like Steve said
Yeah,
in chat, he said it looked like a knockoff Aston Martin.
yeah, I'll be honest, I don't like it. I like futuristic concepts, but this doesn't work. Like this side angle, the front wheel arch is way too narrow. The rear quarter is way too thick. I don't know. It just looks off to me in proportion.
Well, I mean, the shame of this was something I was going to bring up later. Obviously, back in the day, and we're way past this on every manufacturer, but you'd have like an actual clay model or like something that had to be pushed out on stage, physically tangible, model to
Right.
somebody, not necessarily a running driving car. But this is obviously, a render, and it's like something that practically couldn't exist. Like it like doesn't even look like it could roll. Like it's
Yeah.
so I get it was a styling exercise, but they definitely pulled from a lot of different things here. I mean, I know what they're going for with the whole thing in the front. I mean, it almost looks like it's going to have that cockpit style opening like the KTM Crossbow has, which would be cool. But,
Yeah, it
we're
doesn't
talking
appear to have
a-
doors, does it? Oh, I guess the
No,
gull
that's what I'm
wing.
saying. Like, where do you get in unless that whole thing slides up and
Well, it looks like it has gull wing doors. Like you can kind of here.
Yeah,
Let me
possibly.
bring up.
You gotta smash the window. Just get in that way.
Let me bring up this.
Oh, it does, because I see the little splits on either side.
You
of
can
the,
barely make out
windshield.
here if you follow my mouse. There's one on the top, but then there's nothing like in the front. Like
But also in this way, I mean, and as all cars with gull wing doors or Lambo doors or whatever, but this one in particular looks like it would have 3.5 feet worth of sill to get over before you're like in the seat. There is no way of not
Yeah.
making it like a
Unless that like
trying to get in and out of this thing.
yeah, unless that side pod also like some of it comes up with the door. You're not
Right.
you're basically gonna need like a step stool to get into this.
You're gonna have to jump and dive into this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but I mean, like I said, I think it is cool. It's perfect for. This really does scream design exercise. It's just what's crazy to me is I'm so used to with modern day internet seeing images similar to this, and then like a clickbaity small following Facebook page that says this is just announced new Corvette official, and it's like complete AI.
that was my original thought. That was my original thought. Like
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's where my mind goes. I'm like, okay, I'm sure. But this is, an officially GM, like, we approve of this. We actually asked for this design, which is, it's neat. I mean, like I said, if you look at it just as what it is, a design exercise, I think it's really cool. I mean, they've always been looking to make way too ahead of their time spaceshipy looking Corvettes. Even if you go back to like Mako.
it turns out this is powered by a Wankel.
Oh yeah, they do. They tried that too at one point. But no, it's cool. Like I said, it's got a lot of styling cues from other cars I like. If you take away the fact, like I said, that nothing will ever look like this, even close to production. But if they take some language from it, that would be cool. Now, like I said, if you kind of look at just the front of it, it does look like the original when I say original. Um,
Fever
from the
dream of
early
Anton
2000s.
Zora.
Exactly, but you remember the original? I don't know what they called it. It's whatever the one that was in Transformers. It was not Sideswipe, but it was the one that was like the Stingray concept. That really did. It was way more longer and exaggerated in every proportion, but you kind of saw where it was going. And if you actually look at them, you can see a lot of the hints that they took from that another official GM styling cue or project, and they really did kind of tie that into the C7 and then everything else. It's kind of been like that ever since. So I mean, if this is what we're looking at going forward, that would be pretty crazy.
One thing I did want to point out, and I've wanted to point this out, I noticed it after I made the reel, but this thing has some really, like, just way out there futuristic tech, and I don't think I've ever seen a car like it. But if you look back here in this little gill area with the wheel, what aren't we seeing? Yep, this thing has Bluetooth axles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that they don't have flying buttresses; they have grounded buttresses. What is that? That looks like a photoshopped just flying buttress just down.
The only thing I could possibly excuse on this is if they're going for that. This is an all-electric Corvette, and each wheel has a motor in like the hub.
I mean that would, but still, like
they've revolutionized tiny and powerful motors.
Right.
Yeah, but let's see here. Just real quick before we go on, Sean, Internet Dinosaur is making some reference to someone about a Ram and a third row. I'm not sure if that's Greg or Elliott, but I haven't done a Ram video since 2019, so.
That's probably me because I did a short on the Ram with the Ram third row. I just responded, "We have many takes. Most of them are bad."
That's fair.
It's fine.
But
everyone's entitled to their opinion. I have them. Most are wrong.
Yes, but we have them and we put them on the internet. Therefore, we're right. Also,
Right,
I did want to point out.
them.
I did want to call out. We got Andrew back in chat. He's been here a few weeks, but good to see you, Andrew.
Andrew.
But yeah, so look, as a thing, I actually like this. I like the look of it. Granted, it has a lot of Aston Martin Valkyrie to it with like the Venturi tunnel and like all this stuff that obviously is just, again, someone made a render of a car and let's give props where it's due. It looks pretty dang good.
Right.
At least in my occasionally humble opinion. Yeah, Sean, it doesn't have front on. I don't see any front axles either. But it just, and I said this in the reel, and I wanted to get your guys' thought because Greg is oftentimes the voice of reason on this show, and Elliott, you are Mr. Corvette. I will take no.
But not necessarily Mr. Reasonable Corvette, which is...
You seem to be well, let me put it this way. I go back to our C8 conversations on, is it a real Corvette? Or why did they do this? Or all this. And you have a very, we'll call it, mature take on the whole entire thing, right?
Sure. Thank you.
I mean, it doesn't save you from being wrong, but like the way you present... No, but, my take on this is, and we kind of touched on it a little bit in the beginning, but the Corvette was always America's sports car. And like, yeah, there was a deviation from that with the C8, and it sort of kind of became not so much North American, not so much European, somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic kind of thing or what have you. But at least like the base Corvette comes with the soundtrack of previous Corvettes. And to go with this just, I mean, we've said it. Like, I've seen Koenigsegg, I've seen Aston Martin. I wouldn't be at all surprised. Like, you could take the badge off of it and you could insert hypercar manufacturer here, and everyone would be like, yeah, that fits. I just don't know if it fits as a Corvette. Now, it could also be, if I'm playing the other side of the coin, could also be that GM is going to Detroit to give you that old school throwbacky feel. It could also be that and LA is going to do something crazy futuristic, and they told the English designers to do, okay, we want you to do this in your style. We want you to do this in, yeah, it's going to bear the name Corvette, but we don't want that to limit you. So they're going to get 3 distinctly different takes and sort of pick and choose the best from it. But
sure,
I don't know. I'm too old school. Like when it comes to the Corvette, man. I look at the new ZR1 and I keep coming back to the idea of, you said how they had sort of maxed out the front engine platform. I was like, I didn't see him put 1,000 horsepower twin turbocharged V8 in the front engine yet. Like
that's true.
And I get where you're coming from with that. It's just like the stuff doesn't scream Corvette. And like again, I'll close with this and get you guys' thoughts on it. But I always go back to this. Growing up, we always watched Le Mans, and you always had the guys sitting above the pits, and you could tell when the Porsche went by. You could tell when this car went by, when the Ferrari went by. But then, like, it kind of got muddled into I don't know what that was. That was one of these. That was one of those. That was one of these. But there was no mistaking when the Corvettes went by. And that's just sort of where that to me will always be quintessentially Corvette, because it's Corvette doing it their own way, doing it with an engine everybody else had stopped playing around with for decades, and still winning. Now it just feels like we joined the cult of mid-engine, flat-plane crank, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head right there. And you kind of picked up on something I was going to mention on this. Now, obviously, I reserve my full thoughts on this until it's, this is the actual announced car, which, like I said, we are very far off from that. But one thing from C1 to C7, obviously all very different looking cars, they somehow, throughout the decades, always found a way to make a Corvette look unmistakably Corvette. Like, even if you took somebody from the past and you showed them a C5, there was something, whether it was the proportions, something that was always unmistakable. Like, I can still see it. That's a Corvette. Even though, you put any of these cars next to each other and it's like these are radically different. Obviously, I'm excluding the C8 from this because, that's such a huge departure. But one of the things that is a key Corvette design is almost immediately, even if you're a child, being able to recognize it as a Corvette. And this is such an out there concept that, like you said, you could put practically any badge on the front of this and just say, even if you said Subaru's new crazy design, I'd be like, okay.
Or even a Zuzu.
Yeah, no, exactly. You're like, it's just a brand that's not even around anymore. Yeah, I'd be like, oh, sure. It's out there. And like I said, I'm sure the new Corvette will take something from this, and I think you also nailed it on the head when you said that's why the design teams are in such 3 radically different places. Because if you just go, hey, our only design team is in LA, you're gonna get a very LA influenced version of something. And same thing with the Detroit thing. And so I'm interested to see, and I do hope they release each team's vision, and then kind of all of us look back, whenever the next thing comes out, we can look back and be like, I see things from this car, and this car, and see how that actually all ends up working. Like I said, just viewing this one alone, it doesn't scream Corvette to me. Even in this view right here, I mean, people lost their minds when they stopped having, circular quad tail lamps. I mean, what are they going to do when they see a bunch of vertical lines, LEDs? It's so not, the traditional, even a nod to any past design. I mean, the only thing that maybe is kind of a nod is, like I said, Americans like aircraft, and it's got kind of a cockpit thing going on, with the split windshield. But what I mean? Like, there's so many things on it this is just a very out there design. Like I said, cool for what it is. I'm interested to see where it goes from here. But like I said, the hallmark thing of Corvettes has always been being able to instantly recognize them as a Corvette. And I don't think this really even has a single nod to any previous design detail. And it's not like they didn't have a lot to choose from.
So the what this reminds me of a lot is what was that Oldsmobile like sort of concept from like the
Oh yeah,
80s?
it was called like the
Um,
Oldsmobile like Indy or something. I just saw it on
yeah,
a calendar recently.
Chad, you did a reel on it. It was didn't it have like a four-cylinder engine or something like
The Aerotech.
Aerotech? Thank you. Yes. That so
There
it
we go. I
reminds me a
wasn't even close.
lot of that because one of the color scheme because of the silver and gray two-tone and that it just reminds me of that from like that quintessential sort of 80s-ish two-tone design. But also the wheel arches, the wideness, the swooping body, the lines, it reminds me a lot of that, but just modernized, like angles, lots of cuts, ventilation. In that sense, this it reminds me of just a pure design exercise with zero forethought of like, oh, it needs to be attached to a brand. Like you could slap a Buick badge on this and be like, oh, this is the 2025 Aerotech, and people could be like, ooh,
The new
cool, new Buick
Enclave.
Aerotech. Yeah,
There you go.
this is the new Enclave. In which case, wow, great, we're getting away from the SUVs and crossovers. Good job, Buick. But it's cool looking, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely not something that I can distinguish as something that GM designers anywhere in the world came up with because it doesn't look like a GM design thing. It just or a Chevy or Corvette or anything. It looks like, a concept, and that's sort of boring in a way because it can be faceless and nameless in that sense, which is a little odd. So I don't know. It's cool. I'm not a huge fan, but like I don't know. I think it should have been a little bit more nodding, like you guys are saying, to actual Corvettedom
They
as
didn't even
opposed to
do the
just
Corvette badge the
being
same.
modern for the sake of being
Like they
modern.
modernized the Corvette badge. Like
Yeah. Like I
Yeah,
said, there's, I think, another more good points. What I would want to say, the thing I forgot to say is, I think you can even just tell from the images and stuff like that. I don't think anybody on this design team was over 30. This was like almost
I will say,
college level, not college level, but like it's like very youthful ideas of like I said before we even really got to talk about it, it's like I don't think you could, even if you made this, it's like, well, where do you push it for? Like it can't roll. Like there's
yeah.
nothing realistic. There's almost not a single realistic thing about it.
Actually, I was just gonna go there. The one shot, I think it's a front three quarter. This shot reeks of AI because of
Right.
the background and because of like how it's positioned with the lighting, and this shot reeks of AI. This one, not so much. The rest of them look fine, but like to me, this almost looks like you could have put something into Chat GPT. And honestly, I mean, it's probably a big slap in the face of the design team, but like you could have done a little better.
Right. And like
Sorry.
that's
it could have
that's
had
another thing I was saying.
axles.
You make even like I said, just a physical version of this at an auto show, it would get buzz. Like
Oh,
just
totally.
We're talking
make
about
something
it.
that's even possible to mold out of something else, and it's like,
Yeah.
if I see that, I have a lot more respect for it. I think it's just, computer tools are. Now listen, don't get me wrong. I personally could not have rendered this. I'm just saying that
Yeah, no.
I've seen enough stuff that it's like this isn't as impressive, nor even close enough to being reality to get my loins stirred. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
this is cool computer art that was officially recognized by GM.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up nicely.
And obviously we're talking about it, so like Chad said, but
Yeah, true.
it's just one of those things. I can't wait to see all three designs together. I hope they do make a physical model out of the best of all three. And like I said, I'll get more excited then, because we really haven't had any cool concept cars at any auto show for a long time. I liked back when manufacturers were like making and bringing out their stuff like this to a show, even if it was just a rolling piece of clay. It was a cool time, and I'm all for it if they can make some physical-ish version of this, if nothing else than to just gauge people's interest. But my
Yeah, that'd be cool.
hope for that is fairly low, because Ferrari doesn't even make models of their own stuff anymore. I mean, they release like not AI, but renders of cars that actually exist as like some of their official things. Like they have the F90 or whatever. Like they've driven it around and stuff like that. But if you go on Ferrari's website, their own website, it's all the renders of the car. It's like
Right.
It's like almost that's the more acceptable version of things. And maybe it's me getting old, but it was cool to see the last car. I remember before it was out, like the Ford GT second generation. They built a model of that, and Ford would take it around places. I don't think it ran or did anything, but you got to see it, and it was cool. It's like I just think that does something these days.
That's a really good point, actually. Do you think back in 2015, if Ford had just made a video and not put that car on stage, would it have had the same impact? I think absolutely not.
Right, I don't think so at all, because I would have been like, cool. That's a really cool CGI video. Is like what I would have thought.
Right.
It changed my opinion of that car seeing it in real life.
Yeah, great animation. Love that. Good job that you hired DreamWorks to do your car reveal. Like,
right.
It's
like,
not,
obviously, you guys have the budget to make this look as good as possible, but bring it out on stage, slap it around. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're saying to wrap it all up is GM, cool. Now make it, but not actually make it, and put it physically at a show and see what happens.
Perfect. Build it and put a V12 LS in it. Push rods and all.
Also that.
100% down.
Or V16
and axles.
And call it a Cadillac.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Someone said it in chat. Sean, what if Buick brought back the Skylark or Riviera as a luxury vet? And you call this the Buick Skylark. Can you imagine if this thing was the Buick Skylark?
It's definitely a lark.
I think everyone over the age of 90 would have an utter conniption.
No, and like
it screams more Rayada to me with the roof line.
Yeah, it's true.
This is the next Grand National.
Yeah, there you go.
Quantum Cell is definitely not coming out looking like that. I mean, it goes without saying. It's obviously meant to stir up talk, like we said, and we're talking about it. So, mission accomplished.
Mission mostly accomplished.
And it's just like, I think the biggest thing that gets me on it about this is they designed it completely devoid of what people were like they designed it without like knowing Corvette's history, without like having that connection to it. It's just like here it's what's the best way to describe it?
No, it's like you said, British guys don't typically get excited about Corvettes. Like, that's not part of their childhood.
No, and like to them, they're like, I don't know. Like to me, the biggest
foreign
thing,
Yank mobiles to them.
To me, it's just like they could have, like the biggest indicator that this will never ever see anything remotely resembling, the first thing of production is the fact that it's got a split front window. Like, hey, you know what would be a great blind spot? The lane to my right. I don't need to see that. Like, you know what I mean?
They're just taking cues from the F1 Halo. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but
and you know what? And all the big major hypercars have one fixed windshield wiper that's usually up and in the center.
That's right. So yeah, it's just we're channeling Koenigsegg just in body design and not windshield.
But there's actually a shot, like you can actually see it if you look like at the 3/4 shot where it's pointing to the left. You can actually see if you look at it close enough that there's actually whatever you want to call that, a mid A pillar, but there's actually like it's not just here like a windshield would be like, it's actually like this. And so like it's literally like you could see there's actually a pillar there. But it's like I said, I honestly think if this had any other badge, it would be met with like it would have been met with like, wow, that's insane. Like if Ferrari came out and said this, just kidding, this is actually the F80, everybody would have been like, yes.
Ooh,
And then of course, it's got a V6. You are Ferrari. No V6s. Bad. It's just not. Like I said, it just doesn't scream Corvette. But Now, as you watch, so moving on from middle-aged men talk about how things aren't the way they used to be. Um, Greg, how's the Volvo?
It's Volvoing, and it's fine.
There you go.
It's still kicking and safe. The end.
That's all you need. That's doing the best. That's the best it can do.
Yeah. I'm still rocking my Summers because I didn't even take them off my car this winter.
Me neither.
That's good. You actually you actually saved yourself time.
That's true. I did. I didn't because I actually got it up in the air and tried to take them off, and they were welded on there good. And when my buddy Sean, I brought it in for an oil change, and the reason I did that is because I'm like, I can't get my wheels off. Can you please try to get them off and do a rotation for me? I don't care. Just use straps or something. Because I was in here freaking
Sawzall.
with my rubber hammer trying to go for it, and I was just like, so how'd you get them off? And he was just like, he didn't even miss a beat. He just looks me straight in the eye and just goes, hammer. That was it. One word answer, just hammer. And I was like, figured. I always thought he would have like a ratchet strap tied to like a pole hammer, and they would just try to like yank it off like that, but nope. He's just like, nope, hammer. I'm like, good. But yeah, that's fine. I got a rotation at least while I was there, so
There you go.
Yeah, we're good.
I was just gonna chime in. My viewers don't know this yet, obviously, because I haven't made a video on it. But I just got my Volvo out a couple of days ago.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in my garage right now. I haven't driven it in like a full year.
I was gonna say, how is it? Does it still run?
It still works. I had to get a new battery for it. But what I was surprised about is, in typical Volvo fashion, it's now mad about something it wasn't mad about electronically before I stopped driving. So now, I get the typical warnings that I have to clear, which I know about. It's like no big deal. And then this one now, it's like, also service anti-skid system. And I'm like, oh my God, I did. And I'm not that worried about it because it's summertime, but it is just one of those, of course, thank you, car. I let you rest in an indoor climate-controlled area, and you decided to have...
I pamper you, and this is what you do to me.
Yeah. So
That's it.
And then
Rally
I also
special stage.
I did feel a little bad for it. I mean, I've said pampered. It used to have a sheet of like painter's plastic on it because I parked it underneath my dad's Model A, and at some point that went away, and I didn't think about it and I didn't worry about it. But when I pulled it out, the Model A had just leaked oil from like the top of the windshield down, and so I just had this like oil streak down there. I was like, no big deal. I'll take it, wash it off, and it like didn't really wash it off, and I had to get after it with simple green, and then this and that, and I was like, that's what you get for storing it under an old Ford. But yeah, I know. And then I noticed recently I tried to use my windshield like washer thing, and I didn't realize the oil from sitting on the wiper had made it buckle. And so I was like, oh man, it's at least it's the blade, not the arm. But I was like, man, oh well, it's stuff to do. And it's still I need to put a turbo control valve on it and all this stuff, but it's running well. Air conditioner still works. It's doing all the stuff.
So, wow, all right, that's good. Yeah. At least it's running. I know so many R owners that are just like, yeah, I left it for like 3 weeks and now it won't even turn on anymore. I'm like, that's a problem. You should probably get another car.
Yeah, I know. My dad asked me realistically. He goes, so it's gonna be a pretty solid backup car if anything ever happens to the Prius. And I'm like, not really.
No,
like, this is probably the least. Like this is my fallback. I'm in serious trouble. Like
this is my fifth fallback.
Yeah, it's like there is a reason that I am like worried about it. I'm like, oh, this thing's gonna throw a code or a rod at any moment. But yeah, it's still interesting.
Joke's on you. The rod's gonna hit you with the code.
That's true. And I'm sure it'd have something funny to say in its little message screen.
This is the real anti-skid where a rod just hits you square in the nuts as you're driving.
Right, can't skid if it doesn't run.
That's also
right.
True.
That's accurate.
What's new with the Mustang, Chad?
Cam phasers.
Hey, that's classic Coyote stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. I still think...
Yeah, Chad has Lope now.
Well, as close as you can get with dual overhead cam. But the short version of the story is I either have a sensor or a cam phaser that's gone bad, or cam phaser or actuator that's bad. So the ECU locks it in the high performance mode of the cam. Why? I don't know.
That's a cool. That's a cool default. I figured it would definitely be the other way around.
I did as well, but I was like, man, it sounds pretty mean at idle now. This is pretty awesome. And I was like talking with Jeff and everything, and we kind of came to that conclusion. And while it's not bad or anything, what I think the short version of the story is, I think someone somewhere starved it of oil before it got to the dealership. The dealership never checked. I was a dumbass and didn't check. And then for the first, like, I don't know how many miles, I was driving around thinking it had fresh oil because there was nothing. Like, really dumb thing to do. Don't do that, kids. Lesson learned. But I think it was starved for oil. When you starve the phasers of oil, they can get stuck.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things that we could possibly do to fix it on, like, the inexpensive. We can send alternating voltage through there to kind of get the thing to, kind of like how Greg fixed the volume by moving it back and forth. Move the phaser back and forth and see if that works.
That would free it up, probably.
But there's like so many moving, both literally and figuratively, moving parts with it, because part of the plan has always been to send the heads off to Frankenstein, have them port and polish the heads, put in the cams, the springs, the retainers, and depending on the cam profile that if we go with, you lock out the phasers. So you lose VVTI, but the which is on I think the exhaust side, but you keep it on the intake side. There's I know a lot of the hot Coyotes that's kind of their setup. I think I could have that backwards, but I'm 99% sure I'm mostly theoretically correct. But don't quote me on that, internet. But so like part of me is like, do I want to open all that stuff up, get the head, put it back on? But apparently you don't have to take the heads off to do the phase. So I'm just, long and short of it is, I need to get it to a Ford dealer, have them look at it, have them tell me exactly what's wrong, and then kind of go from there. Because again,
does it have a code, or it's just?
Yeah. Well, I don't have like dealer level diagnostics, but it has.
But it has a check engine light, and it's like.
Yeah, the codes are. I can actually pull that up. I think if I haven't deleted them, we have
E4012
P0345 cam shaft position sensor A circuit, P0390 camshaft position B circuit. Then it says the camshaft B circuit is intermittent, and it says it for the same for the A circuit. And because the signal is intermittent, it thinks it has a misfire.
That adds up.
So, like, I haven't really been driving it. I've been turning it on just to circulate fluids and all that stuff. But I need, like I said, I need to get it in. Like, I need to figure some stuff out. Like, because again, like, I don't like sending the car in just to make it good. Right? Like, okay, it's getting work done. Something here needs to be upgraded. Like,
right. Like, I follow that logic. You're like, if we're gonna mess with something, we might as well make it better too.
So it's in a bit of a holding pattern. And then once that's up and running, probably end of the summer or end of fall, probably going to bring her in to get a new clutch, new flywheel. I'm hoping by that point I can finally do the brake upgrade, which is at minimum the GT350 rear brakes. For no other reason other than I like the way they fill out the wheel. And they're not the drag pack brakes that have been on Mustang GTs since like the mid 90s. Like legitimately, you could go to like, I think like a new Edge Mustang, pull the rear brake caliper off and it would work on my car. And it's what part of the thing is like, if it ain't broke, don't work it. Greg can fully attest to the stopping power of the performance pack brakes on the S550 Mustang. They work really well. And they do that because people put like weld racing wheels on these, like 16.
Right, and it's because they're smaller, yeah.
And that sort of stuff. I personally don't care, even though like I have to drive 2 hours to go to a road course. It's just, for me, the end goal is to have GT350 brakes on all four corners, steel, not ceramic. Although I would love to have the ceramic just so it doesn't make my wheels all dirty, but ceramic also needs heat to work, and I'd like my brakes
Right.
to
And I was
work.
gonna say, it was like, and they're squeaky as all get out.
You know, Logan, welcome. Hopefully one of you knows who Logan is. But welcome to the show. Hope you stick around and enjoy yourself. Sean asks, what the F do you drive when the Mustang is horsing around?
Ha ha ha.
Wordplay. Greg, stop resizing yourself.
Solid pun.
Yeah.
A 20-something Equinox.
Ooh. Hey, Tyne, that's okay.
It was the car my dad
Sorry.
had.
You guys can do that.
And it went to my mother when my dad passed, and my mother doesn't drive anymore, so it's like...
Hey, gets you where you need to go.
Gets me
It's
where I
there
need
if
to
you
go.
need
It
it.
works fine. I have to plug it in to get
Is it-
CarPlay, but, white collar problems.
Oh man, well at least you have it.
Yeah.
I no longer
Yeah.
possess anything new enough to have CarPlay, and it's going backwards with technology has been painful.
You know.
You're going in reverse. You're just like, I need less technology. You are the boomer. You're like,
Yeah.
no, technology is
I
dumb.
know. I'm like,
I
I'm like,
need
no, I want it.
I
No, I do
need
actually- I
I
drive my
need
dad's Lyric.
spline gears with no synchros.
Oh my god, just talk about it. I just got done doing that. No, but I do. I guess I do drive my dad's Lyric, like I said, more than he does, and that's pretty. It's pretty hip, computer-wise, as the kids might say.
Does it work as well as Greg's computer? Hopefully better.
I would say it does. It seems to do it. Well, you know what though? I tried. I want to say around 15 times to install an update on it. Followed all the instructions, and it would just be like, never mind. And I was like, okay, whatever.
Amazing.
And for no reason, I just tried it again. I was like, sure, we'll try it one more time because you have to turn the car off and get out of it for it to do it. So you kind of like never know. And then this week, it was like, hey, it was update successful. I'm like, great. I still don't know
Cool.
what it updated, but
Now with
they said
more
it's
Cadillac.
Something very important
I
that
think
is
the
going to
title
tell you
was
when
like,
it breaks later.
Important update. I was like, okay, and yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be something really important that's gonna break later, and it's gonna be like, oh, you know that update? Man, you shouldn't have done that. It was like, I don't have a choice.
Yeah, it was like you told me to, or like one of those updates like the Mustang Mach-E's were experiencing. You did like it was like, hey, required update, and you're like, okay, and then it would be like, update failed, vehicle cannot be driven, please have towed to dealer. You're like, oh my god, it was working fine before this.
Did
You guys
my
broke it.
car
Your
just
stupid
catfish me
update,
into a
you
dealer
fixed it.
service, paying the dealer?
Exactly. Yeah, your car just totally backed you into a dealership service where it's like you didn't want to go, so now the car won't go. Like,
Yeah.
it's throwing a toddler tantrum to go to the dealership. It's just sitting down in the middle of the grocery store. Nope.
It doesn't even want to be called a Mustang.
I know. We've been there, but that was a different cast, different time.
Yes, a better time.
A better.
No, I mean, yeah, cars always fun, and like, it annoys me how behind I am on the black car build. But life not only finds a way, but it finds a way to when you least expect it.
Sure does.
At any rate, sorry, my dog is actually being a jackass.
Oh, okay. We didn't hear it, and we turned around. I was like, and Chad's experiencing a home invasion live on stream.
Somebody swatted me.
Chad's getting swatted immediately.
Live on stream. We just see it, we're like, Chad, no, behind you.
But yeah, before I go, Hugo over on YouTube. No real specs have actually been brought out about that quote-unquote C9. It is literally a design study. If you look at some of the pictures, especially the ones that go through the side vent behind the door that show like sort of the venting, the thing doesn't even have axles. So
Yeah.
it's the fever dream of someone who put a little too much cocaine in their tea over in England. But right.
Or like we talked about last time or the time before, cocaine wine.
Yes.
No.
It was the original Coca-Cola.
Yes.
There you go. That's true.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But at any rate, your topic for discussion is Elliott. Convince Greg to get a bigger turbo on his car.
Oh, okay. We'll do our best here. I mean, Greg, it's going to be elementary arguments here. Big turbos are always cooler. They sound cooler.
Do.
Um,
Oh, you
your
got the
engine
thumbs
can
up
always
bubble
handle
again.
more boost, no matter what you think. Until it can't. But you got to find the limit to know where it is.
That's true. That's true. I have multiple engines at my disposal for this.
Right, there you go. I think you'd be one of the only people to have big turbo to your particular generation.
One of very few. I think there's some turbos out there.
Yeah.
I think it's more in Sweden, but
yeah,
because they do. Have you seen like some of the builds they do in Sweden? It is crazy.
I'm sure. Well, but and they should be, because those are like the Chevys of Sweden. So it's like they don't, it's not like it is here where we're like, oh, this is expensive and not many people know how to work on them.
Right.
That's
exactly.
Like, that is their thing over there.
Yeah.
So that's good. I haven't really looked into too many wild Swedish builds. I mean, I remember the old ones, and I didn't even know if they were Sweden. Like from back in early YouTube, like the LS swapped, twin turbo brick, and it was like, well, this is really cool. Obviously, I'd like to now, as a Volvo enthusiast, I'd like to see stuff with the native drivetrain and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, is it something you're legitimately considering, or is it something that Chad is pressuring you? Okay.
No, Chad just likes to pressure me literally every stream. Hey, when's the new turbo coming in? I'm just like, literally never.
I know. Well, hey, it's unlike me. I've replaced the turbo on my car, and I did not want an upgrade, but I received one anyway. So
there you go.
That's fine. It sounds cool now.
It's a thing. It's a thing that happens.
Yeah. Because I was like stock and thing. He's like, why? I'm already here. I'm like, don't. I want it in stock.
Yeah, exactly. But
I think those parts don't exist anymore. So whatever.
I mean, it's a K24. It's just a pretty standard turbo. You should be able to throw that together. Any turbo builder can do that.
I know. I don't remember even what it's been so long. I don't even remember what he changed. Whether it was like the impeller.
You probably got the fan blade upgrade, yeah.
The hybrid thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't. Yeah. I specifically requested not that. But
you got
okay.
it anyway.
Like, I realize that because I've got to be the only person on the planet who's like, I know you're tearing it apart anyway, but please leave it also alone.
Yeah. No, there's two different turbo upgrades to the R's. There's the one that you have, which is basically it's the 1A or the 1.5, where it's just like, oh, you're upgrading the fans basically.
Even Chad just said you replaced the turbo with another one. I was like, hold on, I didn't necessarily replace it. I had it rebuilt.
Yes, it was a rebuild. Exactly.
I didn't just go get another one. If I was just gonna full on swap another one, I'd be like, sure.
Right.
Again, I know how fragile this car is, and I'm just trying to make it work as reliably as it could.
Yeah.
Knowing that it won't.
I think I think yours went from like 7 blades to 9 blades, or like 7 to 11 or something.
I have the.
It's not a lot.
And I did count it. I was like, it is different. One of those things. But then I just wanted it back together to the point where what was I going to do? Pitch or fit? I mean, it's not a bad thing.
Right. Then there's the other hybrid, which is the one that I got, which was like for a more like performance focused one, which I forget what Ben did. I want to say, and I forget where we got the turbo too. It's been so long, but I want to say it was a full Porsche turbo shoved inside of a K24 housing. So you got like a full built like Porsche spec turbo, but like a K24 turbo, but like with all like Porsche fans, Porsche innards. Like what's that? It's got Sony guts. It's like it's got Porsche guts.
Yeah,
like,
it's got Sony guts.
It's exactly what it was. It's like a K24 turbo with Porsche guts. So that's basically what the one that I had, which is the one that's like, okay, it's cool and it's nice and fancy, but I would much rather have like the just regular hybrid one because it's a much more normal application for everyday driving. Like mine wasn't like hard to drive or anything. It was just like, you could tell it was like a performance turbo because you got the turbo lag, it kicked in, and you were just like, fun. It was fun.
And you already had a bigger intercooler too, right?
Yeah.
Because I think
intercooler. I don't remember what I did. I think it was a 288 drop in. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It may have been. It may have. There was definitely something different up front, but I just forget what it is.
For sure. I just remember all the pictures of it. It definitely had an intercooler that wasn't the stock one. That's the only reason I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think it was a custom one. I think it was a drop-in. I want to say it was a duty.
Still like aftermarket though is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
It was not the OEM.
No, you're right. No, it wasn't an OEM intercooler for sure.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
That's a cool car. It got sold again. So the guy sold it to.
Right, you saw it at Carlisle.
Yeah, I saw it at Carlisle.
Yep.
And I was just like, shit, this car is really cool. I was like, I wanted to buy it back so bad. And the guy offered it to me. I asked for right of first refusal, and he was like, look, I'm going to sell it. I'm not actively really selling it. And then it was like 4 or 5 months, and he's like, all right, I'm putting it up. And I'm like, I can't do it right now. I was like, if you kept it for another 2 years, I probably would have. But I have the number of the guy that has it now. So
hey, good. Okay, as long as you don't lose track of it, it's one of those things.
Never
it's
say
like
never.
we talked about in casts past. As cool as it would be, you're better off experiencing something new than going back.
Yeah, exactly. Agree. So
even though the nostalgia is there and everything like that,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, the thing that clinched it for me is like, I think we were talking about this the last time. I was like, oh, the nostalgia, and like, yeah, my oldest son was like, oh, daddy's fast car and things like that when he was like, 3 years old, 4 years old. And then that I asked him about it one day, and I know my youngest wouldn't have remembered it at all because he was an infant. But I was like, oh, hey, without saying my kid's name on a public internet stream, it was like, hey, older child, do you remember that blue Volvo wagon with the tan interior? You used to call it Daddy's fast car. He was like, no. I was like, okay, I'm good now.
Okay, perfect.
I have the video, I have the pictures. It's fine. I'll have that memory. I'm just like, if he remembered it, it would have been like, oh, heartstrings. But now it's just like he doesn't even remember it at all. It's just like, oh, well,
he doesn't even know the service he just did you. You're like, thank you. I was going to be
100%.
legally obligated to buy it if you had said, oh my gosh, yes, Daddy, I miss it so much. You would have been like, all right, that's it.
Oh, I would have been like, empty the freaking bank accounts. Let's just do this.
But the fact that he's like, nope, no idea. What are you talking about? You're like, okay, good.
Yeah, I even showed him a picture of it. He's just like, I don't remember this. I'm just like,
nothing.
Great. Actually, you are doing me the biggest service. Thank you. This is great. Now this one is the one he remembers. And I'm just like, perfect.
And you're selling that.
I keep asking. I was like, "Do you want me to sell my car and get a new one?" They're like, "No, we love this car." And I'm like, "Oh, great! That even better. I'm saving money. I'm saving money everywhere."
Bigger turbo.
It was devastating for me when my dad would sell a car when I was a kid. I was just so emotionally invested to all of them. I remember like legit crying when he'd sell a car, and he'd be like, "Obviously, my dad's like, knock it off." Like he didn't understand it. And I was like, "No, but that's your car." Like I didn't, I was like, "It's leaving," and I'm like. Yeah, I'd get sad when he'd sell like his. This is gonna age me too. I forget he had like a green '98. No, it might have been. It had to have been older, but GMC Jimmy, and I was like, no, but that's that's our car. He's like, we have. It's like, what are you talking? Like, obviously, got something like better and newer. And I was like, I don't want this one to go.
Yeah, my dad sold all his cool cars before he had
ever. And yeah.
Yeah, boys, it's my turn. I shall return in literally 3 minutes, probably less.
No, I get it because I'm loading up on no sponsor here, flavorless LaCroix like a psychopath.
Yes, yeah. Also, I have a Spindrift over here. Yes.
Yeah.
Also, please, Spindrift and LaCroix, please sponsor.
Yes, anything.
What?
Yeah.
What?
That's like, what are you guys doing?
Oh my gosh.
No, I don't know. For some reason, these are going through me faster than beers, though, and it doesn't. I'm not getting it. Like I was like, this science doesn't add up.
I have no idea. Like carbonated water or whatever that stuff is.
I know. Mine is just that. Like I said, flavorless. This is insane. People are probably. I want to hear if anybody in the comments can be like, "Are you actually a murderer?"
Like, where are the bodies in your bed?
Yeah.
But
I'm like, pretty good.
No, that actually reminds me of a funny story. Greg had mentioned like the origin of Coca-Cola, which is kind of funny because it was a Confederate colonel received a stab wound. Like back then that was a death sentence, but he survived. But then he was addicted to morphine, and he actually had a medical degree or whatever. Late 1800s or mid 1800s, medical degree.
And I'm pretty sure you could just general store buy morphine.
So he's like, well, I need to not be addicted to this. So he's like, hey, this thing over in France, it's wine with cocaine. But you know what? It's good and all, but it needs an extra kick. So he added caffeine. So,
dude, it's the perfect thing.
It's like, but at any rate, Coca-Cola became this like one gigantic psyop. Like, there's a video on the internet I'll send you after this. Like, okay, Coke, do you? So what Coca-Cola did was they had all these bottling plants all over the world so that they could sell Coca-Cola or get Coca-Cola for a nickel or whatever it was at the time. Then obviously World War II happens and all the plants in Germany are like, we're not getting any more Coca-Cola syrup. Well, you should have thought of that before you invaded Poland. And believe it or not, Coca-Cola, and this at this point had been de-cocainified, I think. And
boo.
But it was apparently like Hitler's favorite drink. So he had a large chunk of the government and government funding to try to recreate it, but they didn't have anything. So all they had were these like scraps of like different fruit byproducts, all this other sort of stuff. So they just made a syrup out of that, carbonated it, and that's how the world got Fanta.
Huh? How about that? Who knew that Fanta was the Nazi soda?
Yeah. So if you ever see a guy driving a Volkswagen drinking a Fanta, you might want to go the other way.
Yeah, you're like, okay, you know where he stands.
But no, it's not like I nerd out on little shit like that, and thankfully, like some of my favorite YouTube channels already tell the story, so I was like, sweet, no reading, done.
Right. I love that, and like I said, when we'd had that whole conversation about like what non-car content we watch, it's almost always history of businesses that I normally wouldn't think about, or what happened to them and stuff like that. Like I said, it's I love that sort of thing because it's always just like, whoa, because it's such a thing we take for granted. Where like maybe you only know the history about it from the '60s. It's like, no, it's actually there's a lot of stuff that happened between here and
Yeah.
there.
Speaking of businesses, the one I just watched, and our frequent viewers will know where the source for this one, but do you know that the 7th largest pyramid in the world is a Bass Pro Shops?
Is the Bass? I was gonna say, is it the Bass Pro Shop one?
The one in Memphis on the coast of the Mississippi. Well, the guy who owned Bass Pro Shops or whatever, right? Short version of the story starts as a bait and tackle store in the back of his father's liquor stores. Mm-hmm. Fast forward, becomes huge. It's like, hey, what do people who like to fish? What do they also do? Oh, they like to hunt. Buys Cabela's. Then tries to buy another competitor. The government steps in and is like, you'd be a monopoly then. So no. So he's like, okay, what else do we do? All right, well, apparently the first ever like Bass Pro Shops, because they're insane. They have like aquariums. They have like the stuffed animals and all this other sort of stuff and everything. And the one in Missouri, the original one, is the #1 tourist attraction in Missouri.
Boy, does that make sense as a person who's lived in Missouri for a while.
So he decided, because the pyramid in Memphis, it was failing as an event center. Turns out when you build a pyramid, it's not so great as like a place to go watch a fight or a basketball or any of that sort of stuff. But
right.
And so it starts to go under. But the interesting thing about the building, and I know this is a huge deviation from cars, so stick with me. Apparently when it was first built, there was supposed to be a Hard Rock Cafe in it. And one of the guys who owned Hard Rock Cafe, was driving drunk at one point in his Porsche.
Okay.
Careens off the road, going down a hill, somehow survives without injury. Right? Complete miracle.
Yeah.
So he describes it as some Indian shaman or whatever had kind of grabbed him and protected him throughout this whole... So now he's into this whole, like, Indian whatever. And he says, okay, you're putting a Hard Rock Cafe into this giant pyramid. You need to put this totem in there, and I'm going to tell you where to put it, to ward off bad spirits. Mm-hmm. So he puts it in a box, a metal box, or a wooden box inside of a metal box, welds it to at like the tippity top of the pyramid. And when Bass Pro Shops comes in and is like, what the hell is this? And it's a crystal skull. It is like straight out of Indiana
Oh my
Jones.
gosh.
Like a crystal
say, like,
skull.
All right.
And they're like, yeah, no, people already think this was built for some sort of like occult reason. Yeah, get rid of it or whatever. Completely bonkers.
Oh boy.
Like, just, it's insane. If you like sort of like the history of like businesses and like sort of peeling back the curtain on some of that stuff, I highly recommend the Fat Files. It's done by the same guy who does the Fat Electrician, who does like the military history and stuff like that. He just did one on a guy who guy's Medal of Honor recipient, was the first Ace of Aces in World War II as a Marine Corps pilot, just like gunning down Japanese Zeros in at the Battle of Guadalcanal. And he has
Ace of Bases?
Ace of Aces.
Ace of Base?
No.
I love Ace of Base.
Yeah. The
filter.
But this guy, he has all these things. He was the president of the NRA. He had a wildly successful outdoor TV show. He was the...
Oh, I think you typed this out in chat.
Yeah, had all of this like crazy stuff. He was the first commissioner of the he was a commissioner of the AFL, the American Football League, and it was his idea to create the Super Bowl. And then like in 2000 something or other, when he's like 87 years old, he's going to Washington D.C. He's boarding a plane, and the TSA is like thought that his Medal of Honor was a ninja throwing star. Like
This, God.
History is fun.
That's wild.
Yeah. That sounds like Atlanta TSA, if you ask me.
It might have actually been. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Busiest airport in the world.
But to kind of bring this back to cars.
To cars?
Yeah, that's
The cars.
That's the show
Car podcast.
That's what we do, right?
Yeah. Ooh, I have a quiz for you boys. What two non-domestic U.S. Manufacturers just had their best month in March ever in the entire history of their brands?
Can we buy them in the United States?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
What was the question?
What are the two non-domestic car brands that just had their best months of all time here in March of this year?
Domestic car brands?
Non-domestic.
Non-domestic. So
Gosh,
foreign.
I
I don't know why I didn't just say foreign,
Yeah.
but non-US based, as in like Toyota,
Sure.
BMW, like not a American car brand.
I'm going to say something like, it's not like something that wouldn't have a hard record to beat, like Land Rover. One of them, maybe?
No.
Okay. Because I was like, it wouldn't be that hard for them to be like, this is our best month ever. We sold like 30 cars.
We sold 40 Ranges.
Yeah, I'd be like,
We're good.
Guys, new record. No. How is it? Are they obscure? Like, do I need to be like?
No.
Okay. So
Nissan.
it could be Toyota.
What's that?
Nissan.
No. And what did you say, Elliot?
I said so. It really could be Toyota.
It could be, but it's not.
Okay. Subaru.
Yes, that
One
is
of them?
one.
Oh, that
Yeah.
is so depressing.
That's hard to believe because I feel like they had some baller years in the early 2000s.
They did, but they much like Volvo have been growing very linearly over time with
I
more
bet
and more.
Is it also Volkswagen?
No.
Damn, because I was like, I know they're really pumping out the smaller crossover SUV stuff, so maybe.
No.
Is it Mazda?
Damn it, Doug. Yes, because Doug put it in chat.
I never.
You saw that.
Hand to God, I didn't.
Oh, Subaru and Mazda. Okay,
I didn't
I
see
see
that.
it now.
Yes. So yes, and the whole reason is because of tariffs, and I don't want to get into like a really crazy conversation about politics here, but people are panic buying because of all the craziness around that with tariffs both in and out of the country. So the beneficiaries of that are foreign companies currently. So the article states Mazda sales jumped by 16.1% compared to March of 2024, while Subaru saw a 16.6% increase. Massive gains might have something to do with tariffs. Mazda North America moved 43,097 vehicles, which doesn't sound like a lot for
in the
a
course
car
of a
company,
month.
for Mazda, that is a shit ton of cars. And let me see if I can find the Subaru number. Oh yeah, 71,000 vehicles for Subaru, which usually
that's nuts.
For in 1 month for Subaru is wild. That's wild
That's
work.
crazy.
Because Subaru, like just a few years ago, was like, oh, we sold like 400,000 a year. That's a good year, and that's a lot of cars for them. But now, like 71,000, like that's a shit ton of cars for Subaru. Like,
think about it. In 1 month, 71,000 people decided that they couldn't live without one of those.
Or look at it this way: someone every minute, 1.5 people decided every minute to buy a Subaru.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's like that old Bill Gates stat where it's like he could buy a Porsche every minute for the next how many years? I just remember that when I was
There's a reel I just saw.
Man, that'd be fun to do if I had that much money.
Yeah, instead it's just like someone in America bought a Tribeca every single minute.
Yeah, and you're like, sort of.
I just saw a reel today.
80s marketing.
And it was literally Juan Soto hitting a home run. So from the time the pitch is thrown to when he crossed like home plate, there's just a ticker of his money, and like just in that time frame, it was like $1,000 or something dollars. It was like,
so awesome.
God,
that is the definition of FU money.
Oh,
it really is.
It's so crazy.
Oh man, but yeah, so interesting stuff. But I mean, it makes sense because of all that stuff, all the stuff that's going on. So people are panic buying, people are panic selling. Stocks and crypto and all sorts of stuff. So there's just a lot of panic in the market. And the whole reason I bring it up is just to say, don't panic. Don't panic buy anything. Don't panic sell anything.
Unless it's a bigger turbo for Greg.
Unless it's a bigger turbo for me. Wait, hang on. Damn it. No, like, just don't. Is your car working? Cool. Don't do anything. Just use it.
Definitely.
If you don't need one, use it. Great. Cool. Fix it. Needs $1,000 repair? That's easier said than done, but it's also way cheaper than a $40,000 car.
Almost always.
Unless it's Elliott's Volvo.
That's
which
true.
might
That
be a
is not
$40,000 repair bill.
Goodness. Don't buy a P2 Volvo. Don't rush out and buy one.
Ooh, that's fighting words in this chat. That is
but the thing is, they're not rushing to buy them. They already have them.
Yeah, they either already have them or they already own them and sold them, and they're like, yes, that Elliott, he's smart.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of buying and selling cars, transitional material. It's my strong suit.
Yes, like it. That was smooth.
Elliott, you were recently at an event that featured quite a few buying and selling of vehicles at an auction.
Well, so yes, I was, but believe it or not, this was a fun one because the auction hasn't happened yet. So I haven't gotten to do this.
Oh.
Normally, I go out there and I do a version of this during the auction, and it's like really condensed and really rushed. This time, we kind of talked with the people at Worldwide and everything else, since I kind of do a lot of their promo stuff leading up to the auction. I was like, it just kind of was one of those things where I was like, what would be really efficient and how I could get a lot of stuff done is if I came out there before the auction and like filmed with a bunch of stuff when it wasn't in people's way, and there weren't, all this stuff going on, and we could get like a huge wad of promo videos out. So I got to be there for the first time ever before the auction, like a month before. So it's at the end of this month, but I got to be out there for the sole purpose of driving and shooting videos with cars for promotional stuff. So it was pretty much a dream come true because that was like my only job during the day. So what we're seeing right now is one that I did get to drive, and it's probably going to be one of the more expensive cars of the auction. It's a 1937 Mercedes 540K.
I'm sorry, what year?
So it's a supercharged 1937.
Okay.
So yeah, you know who had one of these. But it's really rare to even see a pre-war German car for all of the different reasons. You know, we wiped a lot of them out. They were never really here. You know, these weren't cars that were imported at that time. This was a car that somehow survived World War II and somehow made its way back here. And, you know, we're talking about almost approaching 100 years of that thing somehow surviving. And like
crazy.
I said, that was a really cool one. Like I said, I've not gotten to drive a pre-war German car. I mean, if you think about it, and I think I've mentioned this before, it's like one of those things where you go like, have you ever really driven a German car from like before the 70s? It's like, not really. You know, it wasn't really the thing that they had. It was like, you kind of remember the oldest German everything we remember seeing is like early 80s, maybe. You know, it just wasn't a thing. But this was one of those also, man, it was just cool because for all of the different reasons, but it's this, you know, big supercharged engine, exhaust coming out of the side there. It's kind of hard to see, but man, the quality, and it was the easiest to steer pre-war car I've ever like had. I was like, it really does steer like a Mercedes. Like, I don't know what they did. I don't know how they managed that because all the geometry and stuff was kind of the same across all the manufacturers. But that was a car I didn't expect to drive and was very pleasantly surprised that I got to. But yeah, like I said, I sent Chad a huge amount of photos, so it's just kind of one of those things where I just was like trying to take pictures of whatever I was driving. And there that you see, they were, I think, about to take photos of it, or I was about to do a stand-up talk about it with one of the owners.
What's the deal with Mercedes? No, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, they really had me out. This was a totally different experience than what I normally get to do. You know, not that the normal thing is bad. This is just, this was like way more behind the scenes. Like I got to help out with like reading catalog descriptions and deciding what, you know, what went and what didn't. It was just really cool to be around so far in advance of the auction. And like I said, Worldwide's very unique in the fact that their facility can hold and house these cars. A lot of every other classic car auction, like your RMs, your Goodings, whatever, you know, whatever way have you, they don't really set up or bring anything in until pretty much the week of the auction, because it's just logistically, you can't have these cars all in one place usually. And most of the time, those other auctions are renting out a space at, you know, a convention center or whatever else to have this stuff. So Worldwide is very unique in the fact that they have like an in-house facility that can actually store hundreds of cars. So it's just a cool experience to kind of walk through, look what is around, and I'd be like, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. And
I love the experience you get doing this because, like, just in this picture, like, look at the difference in cars and like the spoils of diversity of cardom that you get to like walk through and like look at. It's so cool. It's like going to a literal car show, like a concours car show every single time you do it. It's so cool.
It really is. It's wild. And like I said, a lot of the times, and it will be on there, some of these cars, like definitely the Mercedes and probably that Ferrari, some of the cars that I want to drive the most usually are up on stands and like pretty much can't be brought down. So I never get to touch them. But because nothing was on a stand yet, this was like my opportunity. It's like, okay. And those were 3 cars I drove on the day I was flying out. Like I was like hours away from driving these. And yeah, it's a huge like, contrast in vehicles. Like 1937 Mercedes, the middle one is a 1965 Ferrari. And then the one on the end is a 1967 Maserati.
Cool.
And it's like, I haven't, you know, there's, again, first time driving 60s Italian stuff, which was like, you know, the pinnacle of cool. It's just, yeah, like I said, very neat. Steve's heading to bed. Good night, Steve. Thanks for joining us, even though we got a late start.
Quitter.
Yeah, appreciate it, dude. See you, Steve.
I mean, I got to imagine like the breadth of diversity in vehicles you see is insane. You know, just here, I mean,
Absolutely.
You're looking at what, 30 years.
30 years of difference in cars and they're all, you know, the best of that cars were at those times.
Right. Oh, excuse me.
And it is wild, especially like I said, going back to back in them. You're like, man, and especially when you go into like this, you get in the Ferrari and you're like, man, things got a lot better 30 years later. You know, it's like it is cool to watch the live evolution of vehicles, and like I said, especially from all over the world. I mean, it's one thing even to from different brands. If you drive different eras of Corvette, you're like, man, things keep getting better and better every time these get newer. But especially like I said, just driving the variety of vehicles, the access that I'm allowed to have over there. Like I said, they're great folks. Just absolute pinch me moments every time I'm doing it. Now, of course, I am having to. We've talked about this. It'd be one thing if you just got to soak it in and like totally be that, enjoy it. It's a little different when you got to like be doing, talking, doing a review live while you're also driving a priceless, irreplaceable, whatever it may be.
Why are the synchros so crap on this?
Well, I legit was surprised that Mercedes did not have synchros. Like it was, because that was from that era. But the reason that surprised me is because by 1937, Fords did. So I thought for sure a 1937 Mercedes would.
And that's why they lost the war.
I was legit blown away. I was like, you're telling me a flathead Ford had synchros at this time, and these dudes are, doing the craziest stuff. Like it had so much cool stuff on it that obviously, American cars didn't. But I was like, you guys didn't get synchros yet? You should have worked. Come on. Now that being said, that Mercedes is worth like $800,000, and a 37 Ford is not. So,
yeah,
it's like worth like 100 times less.
Yeah, but the Ford plant in the late 30s, mid to late 30s was pumping out stuff that was kicking the crap out of Germans anyway. So
right. So that's the interior of that Mercedes. It had like a pearl dash. It's like they had so many cool things I can't even imagine. Like I said, this is definitely a car that was never inexpensive at any point in its life. It was always like
it goes back to that whole like coach built kind of stuff.
Right. Pretty much. I mean, like I even said it in the video, and I was like, just the way these doors feel, like huge, thick, nice doors. It's like you could tell, even though all 30s cars kind of look the same, you like touch that one and you're like, you could tell this was the nicer one. Like it's hard to tell if you just put a bunch of old cars next to each other. Man,
this one was made with the big, thick mahogany wood as opposed to the really thin pine wood.
Exactly. It's not the balsa wood we were using. The interior on that Ferrari, just that color was so good.
Just look at that. That's gorgeous.
Astounding.
Everything about that picture is just amazing, except for your legs.
Well, the bulge isn't bad either. Moving on.
Like just the layout of that car is just so nice. Like the seats are nice.
The funniest thing is I think this is what the 250, if memory serves.
This is I think they call it a 30. It's not a 308. It's like a 330i or something like that.
Okay.
It's escaped me. I learned a lot about it, and then I've now.
There's only so much knowledge you can possess at one time, and the amount of cars you have to go through, just like it's like zip. Oh, that's gone. That's gone. That's gone. Wait, that was my first kid's birthday. Come back.
What's that cartoon meme of like the one that's just like, "Hi, my name is Jeff." He's like, "Hi, Jeff," and then he like pushes the name into his brain, and just like something else goes away or that falls out, and he's like, "Hey, Jarvis, let me tell you about something." Just like instant forgetting. That's my brain constantly. So I'm with you, dude.
Luckily for some reason, it's a 330.
Oh,
so I was close. It was not.
Look at that. My God.
Back when Ferrari knew what they were doing.
And like I said, just that contrast, and also, Ferraris and anything other than red are always like, ooh, cool. But this one, like seeing a 60s Ferrari in that green, and it's like the pictures don't do it justice. It's got this great flake to it. It was such a cool car to be around at all.
And then green over tan and or red from that era is just like insane.
I could be completely faded and just making this up out of thin air, but there's something that just clicked in my brain that isn't my niece's birthday because that went a long time ago. Thank you, Coyote. I now know the differences between a Roadrunner Coyote, a Gen 1, 2, and 3, but, Oh, no, actually, I do remember, at any rate. Wasn't the green on tan or something like that? Wasn't that like Enzo spec? Like, he didn't get the Ferraris in the red or the yellow or the whatever. He got it in, like, a color scheme that...
I think I've heard that before, too. So I think, you're not wrong. I don't really... That does sound about right, for sure. Because I don't remember... I've only seen a few pictures of him with his, like, road cars. But, yeah, they were never... red.
And most of the time they're
even though
devoid of color.
Right. That's also true. A lot of black and white photos of him, but no, I think you're right. And it's like I said, it still holds up today. As much as I am also a purist of being like, if I were to get a Ferrari, I'd want it to be red with tan interior. It's still really, really cool to see them, in off tradition.
Yes.
Colors, whatever they may be.
In an odd turn of events, we have a picture with a red Ferrari, a green Ferrari, a blue Maserati, which, duh, and a red Corvette.
Yeah. Yes, I know. And like I said, this started to be my area where I started to just keep putting cars that I was driving in like one little area. And so it got to be like at the end of like the third day, I was like, God, man, look at all these I've like taken and been doing things with. It was such a variety. Now, one thing was definitely in common with all of them, other than I think the Corvette. I think every single one of them was old enough or particular enough to never have power steering. So I was just so thankful for that at the end of the day, actually, because some of the stuff I was doing was narrow turnarounds, like to come back down certain areas, and it was like, low speed cranking on these things, and I was like so thankful to experience power steering again. But yeah, and then also
power steering is one of those things where you get back into it and you're just like, oh my gosh, I could turn with my pinky. This is amazing. What great innovation.
Exactly. I mean, the Aston Martin didn't turn too bad. It was pretty thin, but they cool. DB6. I know it's not the iconic DB5, but they do look pretty similar, and it's still like a 67. It's not like new.
Yeah.
It was still just really neat.
You definitely had a vodka martini after doing that, didn't you?
I wish. I might next time. I didn't get to really drink at all during this time. It was simply too busy. Did get all of my steps in, though. The facility is massive. Oh, I did one of those, like you guys do, is guess the car, but I only did it on, like, I think my Snapchat. Because it was one of those, like, if I just saw that, you're like, I have no idea. Like...
I'm not going to lie, not to go on a massive deviation from, Elliott's trip to, well, we'll just say heaven.
Yes, for me, for sure.
But not for nothing, there is a community out there that would probably love to see that style with classic cars. And I mean...
Definitely.
Yeah, I think so.
But, all right, consultation over.
I have the ability to make that happen sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, like, when you're jumping around trying to film God knows how many videos, that thought, A, doesn't pop into your head, or B, it's just like, no. It's like, I haven't, right. None of these things have power steering. Like,
I'm just trying to not yet. And, like, my left leg was getting, I had skipped leg day on just that leg because of, like, stiff Italian clutches. Like, but it's like, even that, I was like, this is the silliest thing in the world to complain about. I was like, my left leg is sore from driving the coolest things ever. I will say it was also getting in and out of them was, I definitely felt like an old man towards the end of the day. Not like I already don't getting in and out of a lot of them, but who doggy? You get out of some of the weird ones back to back to back, and you're like, oh my God, like I'm working out muscle groups that I didn't know I had. Because like I said, it is like swinging your one leg out and then trying to, pull yourself up with different things and whatever. It was still just neat.
That's a good 2-car solution right there.
It was like I did this because I was like trying to find 2 cars that would be like a comparison, and I was like, man, I don't know, but I'd also like it dawned on me perfectly. I was like, oh my God, these were both the same price and they're both the same year and they're both red. I'm like, you could have gone out and it was like, what do? Do you buy in 1991 and you've got money? Which one do you do? The only downside is in this case the automatic, or the NSX was an auto, so it's kind of like gonna lose. But yeah. It's still one of those things where you're like, for the exact same price in 1991, it's kind of an interesting choice because the NSX was crazy. It was a reliable supercar, and then the Corvette, the ZR1, as much as I have a boner for them, that was double the price of a regular Corvette, and it still looked like a regular Corvette. At least if you bought an NSX, your neighbor didn't have one of those.
Yeah. The NSX, I don't know if he's still in chat, but Keith Sweeney over at Wheels and Whiskey did a great video. And in it was, one of the video cars in it was the NSX. And they made the comment and the point that like the NSX was almost underappreciated in its day. It's a car that people have become lusted after more as time gone on. as opposed to when
Right.
they originally launched. Which does bring up, and I know I would be willing to bet the house on this. In terms of NSXs, would you rather the early generations with pop-up headlights or the ones with the fixed headlights?
I mean, for me personally, even though the pop-up headlights were the ones when I was younger, I really love that latest version, like the 05 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like in yellow with like, I just remember going on the Acura website back in the time. There was this iconic photo of like one in yellow with like kind of saddle interior, which is like a very loud color combination, but with the top off. Like that is one of the best looking cars I've ever seen. Like it just looks so cool. I don't know. Yeah. What about you guys? I mean, pop-up headlights or fixed?
Greg?
I mean, if I'm buying that era, I want pop-ups. I prefer fixed headlights just generally for design purposes, but if I'm buying something specifically from like the late 80s, early 90s, and they're offered, I want pop-up headlights because it's just like part of the charm of that era is just the like and my dad had a what did he have? It was a
C5.
No, C5. Yeah, those had pop-ups, but I think it was the 308. Yeah, he had a 308 with pop-ups, and
nice.
I think it had pop-ups. I don't remember. Either way, one of the sports cars he had was just like they had pop-ups. Maybe I'm remembering it as the C5. I don't know, but I was just like, that's just freaking cool. It's just like you're in the car, cool. You see the lights go up, and it's like, it's just cool. It's just cool. Honestly, I think it is.
Fixed.
I agree.
10 out of 10.
It is cool.
I never got into pop-up headlights, believe it or not. Like, for me, there's
it's sort of an acquired taste. That doesn't surprise me.
I think the thing is with pop-ups and convertibles, there is a compromise for that stylistic or experience choice that doesn't jive with how my brain works. Right? You take the top off the car unless it's like specifically designed to be a convertible first. Takes away some of the chassis rigidity and stuff. Not that you'll ever notice as a normal human being. It's just I know it's there. It's like you ever see like a big ass spider crawl through your garage and be like, "Yep, I ain't going in there for the rest of the time. It could have left, but just knowing it could be there."
Yes.
And pop-up headlights are the same for me because like it's obviously aerodynamically compromised.
But only when they're up.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying it's the right answer. I'm not saying it's the logical answer. What I'm saying is it's just how my dumbass head works.
No, I get it. It does make sense, and a lot of people are right there with you with the whole convertible thing as well. I mean, it's just one of those things. That's the way of life. I don't, like I said, we've gone over this. It's like I don't really mind either one way or the other. I mean, you're looking at a car, right? This C4. I was just putting a mic on it. I thought it was interesting.
No, so when you first sent this, I honestly thought this was you, and I was like, I cannot wait to make the comment on stream about Elliott being balls deep in a Corvette. But
I do get balls deep in it in the video, but yeah, no, it was just one of those things. I'm like, man, of course, like I love the ZR1. Especially it was for me. It's a C4 ZR1. I mean, how does it get any better?
Yeah, it's a sick car.
You add 2 to 4. And I'm just fighting with you. Look, I get it. I do. And then we have it.
Yeah, and another one of my favorite cars of all time, the SLR. And see, again, actually, here's one in Roadster. Now, I don't necessarily love the way it looks as a Roadster better, but I think it's the one I'd want to have because it still gets the cool doors. As opposed to every other, like the SLS. And I know it's impossible with the way the SLSs are, but I'm like, the SLS convertible or Roadster is like not even really a quarter as cool as the coupe because of the doors, even though it's the same car. But yeah, no, it's just one of those things. Like I never thought I'd be an SLR convertible fan, but I mean, now I'm like, I think
better as a
outside of like whoever in the factory, I'm really approaching probably, and this is a personal sense of pride as a guy who does still have an SLR poster in my parents' house bedroom. This is a car I thought you'd be like, maybe I'll get a ride on one day. It's like, and now I've driven 4 different ones. I'm like, that has to be I have to have driven more SLRs than any, normal person.
I've driven more SLRs than Chevy Suburbans in my
Yeah.
life.
No, it's just one of those things. And like again, those two cars are not
Cool.
similar at all. But I was like, hey, they're both black, and the doors go up, and I have them next to each other.
Might as well.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just two cars that are definitely going to evoke some form of emotion from someone, whether the SLR or what is that, a Diablo?
It's an early Diablo.
What's the SLR going for these days?
A lot.
It's still 200s. And
I have a
mid to
feeling
upper 200s.
I have a feeling in about 15 to 20 years that's going to be a $1 million+ car. I think that specific car is rare enough, it's unique enough, and it's got that. There's something to it. It's. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I feel like that car is going to be a $1 million+ car because there's just something about the long nose, the way it's designed. You're sitting on the back axle basically, and people really haven't truly discovered it yet. I think
True.
like the way that people have discovered like the Countach and blah blah blah. I only mention that because it's in the photo, but like I feel like that's gonna be a big one. Oh, is it a Diablo?
It's an early Diablo.
Yes.
Oh, it's a Diablo. Yeah,
I am definitely
And
gonna
hard
be
to tell
pedantic.
when they're black. Yeah. I think you're right, and I think that here's the other reason I like it. The SLR is one of the things is it can do one thing that normal supercars can't is that with the door down, normal people just think it's a really big SL. Like it does not. You have to be a car guy to even to recognize one on the street. Now, the second you open the door, everyone goes, "Oh, what's that? That must be something." But
Really, the giant gills and exhaust being before the driver's
think
door.
about it. A normal person. Okay, like I said, you drive. This is an extreme example. You drive an Enzo Ferrari, and like even a girl might gaze away and be like, "Oh, that's something. I recognize that's not a normal shape that I see every day."
And he's hung like a field mouse. Continue.
I mean, and I've ridden around in that. Like I said, when you're just driving that, nobody is holding out a camera. Nobody's doing anything.
Right. No, I get it. Like, number one, it's a supercar that's front engine, so like,
Yeah,
they're
doesn't
not
have
expecting it. It does have that Mercedes shape to it, but to Greg's point, I was always shocked that these things didn't really sort of skyrocket. Because number one, McLaren Mercedes, it's pretty.
I know it's such a great story. Yeah, the whole thing is that it's going to be nuts. But I think it got eclipsed by the Ford GT.
True, but there was just so much other stuff there. You had the Ford GT, that you had the Porsche Carrera GT,
The Carrera GT, and the Enzo.
The Enzo. I think the Murcielagos were around a similar time frame, if not shortly thereafter.
Yeah,
so it kind of got
pretty new.
and compared to everything else, like it doesn't stand out again until you look a little closer. You get the doors, but like. I also think a reason why this will increase is it's sort of the return of McLaren, right? Not that
it is their first road car since the F1.
First road car since the F1, and then not shortly thereafter, the MP4-12C dot matrix or whatever it was called, came out, and like now McLaren is they quote unquote have a seat for every ass, well, rich ass at this point,
right? Well, here's why I also think that this is going to be a controversial but unfortunately unarguable opinion, especially looking at these two cars and driving them back to back. The Diablo is what I would put as right on the cusp of undrivable in every aspect. It's a pain in the ass to move around in, do anything. Like, it's cool, but it's just like it's one thing. Mercedes drives like a normal car, but here's the other thing we have to remember. That is not really, something we like to hear is that remember in like 20 years from now, there are going to be such an astronomically less amount of people that can drive a stick shift, let alone a difficult to drive stick shift like a Diablo, and the SLR is an automatic. So that alone is going to make it a more desirable supercar to future people. As much as you might not like to hear it, it's funny. It's the thing that kind of was everybody's biggest complaint when it first came out, but I think it might be the thing that makes an accessible early 2000s supercar because all of the other ones aren't. I mean, I guess the Enzo, but you know what I mean. That's not really quite the same. But like I said,
with that.
it's not something you want to hear, but I think it really will help it in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard also that Diablo is basically just like not, don't buy one, and that's why the prices for these have stayed lower for
Well,
considerably longer than like the
The
Countach
Countach,
or
I don't
even the
get it because,
Murcielago. Like,
yeah, I've driven. I don't think Countachs are all that great to drive
it
either.
was just the
well,
first,
right,
though. It was the
Yeah,
first of them
right. I was just saying
Lambos
that's
that
like
was
the
like,
yeah, that's the
where did
part.
they get the drugs, and and does the car come with them, right?
but I
Yeah,
love it because that's what I love about it. It's like none of this makes sense. It's awesome.
right. Well, that's I think the charm of the Countach because with the Diablo, when you look at the Diablo compared to the Countach, you're just like,
Much more reasonable.
that's a more refined car.
Yes.
It's going to be a better driving experience. When in reality, it's literally just a Diablo body on top of the Countach underpinnings. It's not that, but like it's the undrivability, like the zero visibility, like it's just every bad part of it looking a lot newer, and you're like, oh, it's just the same freaking thing. This is their first like foray into like good cars, and it's not good. Then the Murcielago came out and was like,
It's like,
okay, this is way.
this is good. Yeah,
Yeah.
this was that midway between like absolutely radical cocaine design and like now we're actually owned by companies that want to see us make money.
Yeah.
Well, Bob Lutz
Like,
was
it is the-
involved, so.
Right, it's the in between car where they're like, we need to actually think about this for a second.
So, and kind of last thing on these, it just kind of popped into my head. Who knew the car that was developed by McLaren and Mercedes drives better than the car that was developed by Lamborghini and Chrysler?
I know that's also very true. You bet. What a shocker.
Yeah.
But like I said, it is cool. It's cool looking. But
That's the thing; it
if I had a
snaps the
bunch of
attention.
money, yeah, I would have one to mostly look at if I had the money. You know, and people would be like, "Oh, it's got to be amazing." And you're like, "It's good." I'm so thankful I've had the experience to drive them, but it's definitely one of those things where I'm like, I can be genuinely honest. I was like, it is not as good as you think it might be. Like,
Yeah.
it's a don't meet your heroes situation, but it is also still cool to meet your heroes. It's still like an awesome car. It's
Yeah.
just,
Like
it's one of
if
those
you
things.
have, yeah, if you have, like I said before, if you have FU money, like why not just have a Diablo parked in the garage? Like it's cool.
Right.
And speaking of things that
Yeah.
didn't sell for reasons, a Shelby.
Holy
Hey,
crap. You gotta talk about
a
some of the
Shelby.
things, so,
What is it?
Series 1.
Series 1. Thank you.
And what a mishmash of stuff. I mean, this was the I've driven one a
Yep.
short distance before this, but this one I drove more. I mean, it was definitely. I can't imagine. I would have been so pissed because it's much newer car. I mean, this is like what are they? 1999s. They were all like 1 year, I think.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
think
got it's a weird mishmash of Ford buttons, GM gauges. It seriously just looks like if you look at the gauge cluster, it's like on a Firebird. It even has the little same like orange message center. And then it's a bizarre car, cool looking car, but man, the fit and finish feels like a kit car, and it is kind of like a modern day Cobra as far as it's really powerful and doesn't weigh anything, but it also sounds like a Cobra when you go over bumps and stuff like that, and the doors rattle. And this one had like 1,000 miles on it or something, like really low. So as I can imagine, as tight as one could possibly feel. Like I said, I've always loved the way they looked. But they're just kind of an odd car. But that being said, they have stayed at like exactly the same price for what I can only guess is like the last 10 years. Like they are always like about $100,000.
I've always looked at these
Right.
and thought like the reason why like people who know about them like them and why they hold their value and all that sort of stuff is that it's almost like it's like someone comes up to you like, hey, you listen to so-and-so, I love this band. And they're like, yeah, I listened to them before they were famous. This is sort of that
Yes.
Shelby. Without
This is the before
Yeah.
it was. I knew
without
before it
getting
was
into
Shelby.
the the Omni Go Like Hell or like the Shelby Chargers of 2-cylinder turbocharged fame, right?
Right.
Like it's got the engine, it's got the look, it's got that, but it's like you said, like you sit in it and it's like, oh, but
But it is cool, and like I said,
Not
it's
really
got,
cool.
like I think this helped its values. It has the limited production thing, like I honestly did think they made more of them. They really didn't even make it to 250. They stopped at 249. I would have made the 250th one just.
is the overhang on the
Round it
rear
out.
quarter really that like severe? I'm just noticing it in the picture.
It might be the angle of.
Okay,
maybe the
it just
sun. I mean,
it looks like
pretty
it's really
severe.
tucked in.
Yeah, it's not that bad. It really is. It's a weird car to photograph because it's got so many swoops, for lack
Yeah.
of a better term. Like, because it's really round and all of the styling elements are also round.
Yeah, it looks like
Like,
a
there's
mishmash
not one sharp angle on it.
between a Cobra, a Viper, a Miata, and then something from England.
Yeah.
More NSX. One thing I will say,
Yeah, I was just showing the photography experience of that.
yeah, that's like more photography equipment and expertise in one picture than like I will ever know. But like this is one of those cars, and I tell people this all the
I'll be
time.
right back.
When I bought
Yeah.
my IS 300, at the same time, an NSX of this vintage was like $5,000 more.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is insane. Well, he's gone, so he can't. So let's talk about Ferraris. I mean, I will say this. Now, let's go back. I'm 99.9% certain, if memory serves, and Elliott will absolutely know this. And Greg, you resize yourself again. Stop that.
I'm not doing anything.
I know you're
It's
not.
You.
No, it's just the way Skype is resizing everything. I'm totally
Yeah,
fucking
I
with
know.
you.
I know.
I'm almost positive that it is a flat 12, but I don't think it's a boxer because the pistons don't do this, right? Like, I think for a
Yeah.
boxer, when this piston's at top dead center, this one's at bottom dead center, or something to that effect. But I'm pretty sure the engine sits on top of the transmission. And I think Jason Camisa said like the Testarossa and the BB, or the BB that preceded it, looked like a hypercar, drove like a GT car.
Yeah.
And having never driven any of these, you know,
I agree with his assessment because he has.
yes, I disagree with something I've never done, but I'm an expert on it because I internet. But I forget again. I'm spacing on it. Elliot, quick question: this Ferrari flat 12, not a boxer, right? Because the pistons aren't opposed.
Right.
So
But it is. But I know. I had to look it up into it myself. I remember there was this whole thing because I can imagine right where we're into it. It's like it is a flat 12, but it's also technically a 180-degree V8. And the only thing it has to do with is the firing order.
right.
So in a boxer, the pistons directly oppose themselves all the time, and in this one, the firing order means that like no two are ever quite at the same, push-pull thing that a traditional boxer is doing. Like, so I think that's what it is. But like I said, so it's very.
Nailed it.
I think people got too in the weeds about what is a boxer and what isn't, because it really is. It is 12 flat cylinders. It's just that the firing order means that it's technically not a boxer. It is a 180-degree V12.
Right, because didn't Ferrari try to tell people? Oh, whoops. Didn't Ferrari try to tell people that the original, this car's, well, not this exact car, but the Testarosa's predecessor, the BB stood for Berlinetta Boxer.
Oh, I don't know. That sounds about right.
When they actually named it after a pinup, which that was when the Italians were making proper cars.
That's true. I do love the 512 BBI. I think has the best looking engine compartment of any Ferrari.
And one last
So
thing
cool.
we wanted to double check. This has the 12, or the flat 12, that sits on top of the transmission, correct?
I believe so.
Okay.
I don't really remember off the top of my head. I do have a picture of it. Like you can kind of see everything because like you open up like the back half of a Testarossa. Yeah. See, like that's the best picture I have of it. I believe it is like on top of it because it's not super low.
Right, because I think Camisa said it best. It was like it looks like a hypercar, but it drives like a GT with a big ass engine.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, here's another car of but I don't think anybody's going to be on the same team as this. The Testarossas, were born. That was one of the flip up headlights, icons, and then that this version, those are like, yeah, let's try the same design with fixed headlights. It just kind of like almost looks like somebody put
Ruined the
active
charm.
projectors, on a
This should
thing.
come.
But it does look cool, I think, with those wheels and like everything like that. It definitely ties it in together of like, hey, what is this? Kind of a thing. And definitely, like I said, that was the car I was most excited to drive because it was like, you don't really see them. I think the only other time I've ever seen one in real life was like at an RM auction when I was pretty young. Like that's one of those cars that like people kind of buy them and keep them. They don't really trade hands all that often.
I'm going.
And like I said, it's pretty obscure. People would just be like, Testarossa with funny headlights and weird wheels, and you technically wouldn't be wrong.
I always so like Testarossa was like my introduction into Ferrari, just because of my age and when it. I always liked these, but I always was like, the front grille always felt a smidge cartoonish, right? Because everything on this seems angular. Like the fins are angular.
Yeah.
It's kind of got that flat hood, even though it does have some contour to it. It's pretty flat. It's not like the Series 1 we just looked at, right?
Right.
There we go. But then it has this like almost ovular intake, or grill. Like I was like, man, but I mean they're undeniably cool, right? Like if you're our age, this is almost quintessentially Ferrari.
Yes, for sure.
100%.
And then,
but that front end design is kind of what they kind of carried that into the 348 and then kind of into the 355, and like I said before, abandoning it completely with the 360. But it was like, this was like almost showing you where they were going, and it got. I think it got better and better looking from the front end wise as time went on. I mean, I think the 355 is one of the best looking Ferraris overall.
That would be the one Ferrari I would actually consider thinking about, like getting.
Consider thinking about.
Well, the whole idea of having to do a timing service and drop the entire rear subframe with the engine and trans on it.
Right. No, that does sound not appealing.
But I always liked them. Apparently, those little V8s are pretty strong, so you could apply things like boost. But yeah, Ferrari's just not Ferrari anymore. They just aren't.
No, they've definitely lost their way.
The F80 has an F40 vibe to it with the wrong engine. And like people have always said, like, oh yeah, but the Ferrari Formula One car has a V6 now. That's by rule, not by choice.
Exactly.
How many V10 Ferraris are there? Anyone? Yeah, the V10 in Formula One. And then it's like, well, the Le Mans winning sports car, and that's always kind of driven the Halo car for Ferrari. I mean, really? No, it hasn't. The F40.
No, not really.
F40 didn't really do much in Le Mans. F50, they canceled the GT1 project, even though it had a 750 horsepower, naturally aspirated, screaming V12, because it wasn't going to be competitive with the likes of the Porsche GT1 and AMG or CLK AMG and everything. They canceled that. The F60 was the Enzo, right? And then the F70 was the LaFerrari. Like neither of those had any sort of racing pedigree. Not that they weren't insane machines, but like this whole concept of that's what Ferrari is.
No, I think that's just wrong, especially because the first of the Halo Ferraris is the 288 GTO, and I think that has more in common with Group B Rally than it does.
It was designed for Group B.
Yeah.
Well, it was designed for Group B.
That has Group B Rally heritage, not anything else. So that's like the closest you can tie any of that to.
But I think we had one other vehicle or two others. We had another pre-war thing, but this is a.
Yeah, I didn't drive that. I was just showing the light box and stuff they were using.
This is such a cool shot.
That stuff's not normally there when I'm there.
This is such a cool shot because you have Diablo, E-Type, the Ferrari. I'm guessing that's the back end of a Corvette on the left, the white car. Another E-Type.
I think it's a 70 Corvette.
And then a yellow something over there. It's such a cool shot. I mean, part of me saying like it's kind of a shame that whatever this pre-war thing is blocking it. Like it'd be cool if it was your car, right? Like Greg's Volvo or your Volvo, or hell, it'd be his missed opportunity in my book. The Prius parked up there, but
oh yeah, I would love to have the Prius just mixed in to this group.
And then lastly, and this is what we'll wrap the show on.
Yeah.
A Hot Wheels car.
The fuck is this thing?
Pretty much. So it's called. I'm having to pull it up right now. I think it's called an Erexi, which I'm not an erection.
Yeah, clearly.
It's the Viagra car.
It's
This is the opposite
oh,
of
sorry.
Viagra.
Here we go. It's a real mouthful. It's an ASVE A-Rex Super Coupe Roadster, which makes, I mean,
With like 6 inches of
very little
ground
sense.
clearance. Looks
Yeah.
like.
So it definitely looks like a Hot Wheels car. Definitely catches some looks because it's like, what the heck is this thing? And it's powered. It's weird. Apparently, it's a 2008, and the power plant they went with is a supercharged LT1, and I mean like my generation C4 LT1.
Yeah, the
That's so
Mercury
random.
Marine
It's in the
Lotus
back.
one.
It's cool. You can see the supercharger and stuff like that.
That's
Apparently,
so weird.
it's a bizarre car, but it's one of those things you go through and you're like, whoa, what in the heck is that? Apparently, this guy named Dave Stollery, who was a child TV actor,
And cocaine enthusiast.
must have been, he was doing that, and then for some reason he was like a designer with General Motors and Toyota, which is like a very odd career choice. I mean, good for him.
Yeah, that's a crazy.
You guys
trajectory.
continue. My back teeth are floating. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, so he did that, like I said, odd career, and then he just kind of made his own R&D company, where he just kind of was like, made this one car, and as far as I know, this is it. Like he made one. I legit think it's not based on anything, unlike a normal like kit car, one-off car. Like I
Doesn't
think
look like it.
It's its own thing from top to bottom, minus the LT1. And it's like it was like a real life, which I guess actually does go full circle. This was a real life design exercise that he like made a running, driving concept car. But they only made the one, and because it's like not really based on anything, like doesn't have a VIN, I believe this is like a not, you can't like register it. Like it really can't be reasonably driven.
It's
like
show and display only.
Yeah, and then like I said, he made this whole company and he was like, all right, I did it. It was almost like he just like did it as a challenge to himself, as far as I am led to understand with the car. But
That's
I mean,
so
on
weird.
paper, it should be, really fast, because it's
Yeah.
made out of, like entirely fiberglass, and I believe, probably some sort of tubular frame thing. And
Yeah,
got big,
I
wide
think there's
tires,
nothing
like I
to
said.
it with an LT1. Like
It was a, I
I'm
know,
sure
it's
it's
so
batshit
weird.
crazy fast.
It was 2008. You could have put an LS in it, but
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, like it is cool because like I wish I would have taken another picture of it from the back. It's got kind of like a vented hump, and you can see like the supercharger in there. Like you can see, you're like, okay, that's pretty cool. But yeah, the whole thing is just wacky. Like you go around looking at,
wild.
obviously, as you saw the previous photo, a myriad of different cars. But even amongst all these different cars, this thing sticks out as a, whoa, what's that?
yeah.
And the answer is, don't worry, you've never heard of it, and you still won't hear of it. But it is neat. Like that's definitely one of those things. If you had a collection and you wanted something that's just like definitely nobody else has, and that would 100% stand out, that's the car. And like
This
I said,
thing looks like it would be in a collection nicely next to a turbine car and a Plymouth Prowler.
and that would be perfect. That would go.
Yeah.
That's the perfect, collection mates for it. But yeah, like I said, I
Yeah.
have no idea what its value is, because it's like, what do you do? Like I literally have. I'm very interested to see what happens with this car.
Yeah, how do you quantify this one-off,
Right.
one-car company thing
Right.
that has no basis in any other place? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like
Cool.
there's no comparables for it, and nobody's been waiting for one of these to pop up, because
Yeah.
so it's interesting though. And I don't, like I said, even for 08, I don't really remember this being in any magazines or anything, but it must have been.
Yeah, no.
Like it has
I've
a
never
whole
heard
bunch
of
of
it until
stuff
this
that
moment.
went with it. Like I'm sure it got covered. I swear, maybe I did see it and didn't think anything of it, but definitely an interesting,
No.
probably the
Cool.
weirdest thing that's in the offering for the upcoming auction.
100%, yeah.
But yeah, and that being said, as like I said, since we're ending on this, if anybody's out there still, I'm going to be live streaming the whole thing on their channel, like doing the commentary, driving cars, doing stuff. It's actually a lot of fun, and we try to make it a fun watch. So,
Yeah, a bunch of them.
check me
It's a
out
lot.
there.
It's a good show.
Yeah, we try to keep it fun because it's like it's on for so long, and we like try to keep it fresh, So
Yeah.
no, but we have a lot of fun, and like I said, I've got a
Nice.
fun week coming up there because we do the driving tour, and then it ends in the enthusiast auction, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Sweet. You're muted, Chad.
Oh, Ted's muted.
You're muted for like an hour. It was awesome.
I was.
That's true.
Too soon.
No, and I think that's a good place because I'm sure, Elliott, you're going to be posting all this stuff on your socials and things like that. So tell the ladies and gentlemen, let's face it, just gentlemen, where they can find you so they don't miss out on any of your auction shenanigans just general automotive tomfoolery.
Pretty much all of my everything social media is just my name, Elliott Alvis, and even if you misspell it, you'll probably get there. That's where I'm at on primarily YouTube and Instagram, but I obviously do Facebook too. And if the passion strikes me, I'll release a TikTok every once in a while. But it's mostly YouTube and Instagram are my primary outlets. And like I said, coming up during the tour and the auction week, I'm going to be posting a lot of cool stuff, and it's fun to follow around. Just definitely check me out, and appreciate all of you guys, and thank you guys for having me on today.
Appreciate you you coming on. Wow, brain. But
I can words.
But yeah, I just want to thank everyone for sticking around, watching through our battle with Microsoft, our pitched battle, as it were. But appreciate everyone as always. But for this one, that is going to be a